The money in your account was never real. You walk into a bank. You sign a loan agreement. You check your account. Boom, $50,000 magically appears. You think, well, that must have come from someone else's savings. Right? Wrong? That. Money never existed before you. It wasn't pulled from a vault. It wasn't transferred from someone else's account. It was created on the spot the moment you agreed to become the debt. And here's the truth they'll never say. The bank didn't give you money. They gave you digits, a promise. That's a dot, and now you're the one working 10 years to pay them back real money, plus interest on funds they never even had. That's not banking. That's alchemy. Modern banks don't need to have money. They just need you to believe in the system. They don't move cash. They move belief. You are the fuel. You are the collateral. You are the mechanism through which imaginary money becomes real profit. This video is going to show you how the game really works and, more importantly, how to flip it in your favor. Because once you understand how banks actually create money, you'll stop fearing them and start using them. How banks used to let's go back. There was a time when banking actually made sense. You deposited money. The bank stored it in a vault. And when they lent it, they were literally lending your money or someone else's. It was a direct, limited, accountable process. If they had $1 million in deposits, they could lend $1 million. No more. And every dollar they loaned came with real risk. Because they were lending from actual reserves. This is what's called full reserve banking. It was grounded, physical, transparent. The bank had to protect your trust. Because your deposit was the only thing backing their operations, there was also the gold standard, which meant money was backed by something tangible. Actual gold sitting in a vault somewhere. And that gold kept everyone honest. No wild printing. No imaginary numbers. No creative accounting. That era had limits. But it had one thing the modern system lost: discipline. Banks used to be caretakers. Now, they're creators. Back then, you knew what money was: a store of value, backed by time, gold, or labor. Now, it's a digital illusion controlled by policy, profit, and perception. And the problem? Most people still think banks operate like it's 1950. They down single quotes T. Understanding this change is the first step to taking back control. Because if you're still playing by the old rules, you're already losing a game that was rewritten decades ago. Asterisk asterisk, how money is created. Welcome to the new game. Today, banks don't need your deposits to make loans. They don't even need full reserves. Thanks to fractional reserve banking, they only need a tiny fraction of actual money to lend out 10 times more. Let's break it down. You deposit $10,000. The bank is required to keep maybe $1,000 in reserves. The other $9,000, they can lend it out and then lend again based on that new deposit. Every time money moves, it multiplies. Not because it's earned, but because it's imagined. So when you take out a loan, that's not real money being handed to you. It's a number typed into your account, an IOU. But here's the trick. They charge you real interest on that imaginary credit. They created it from nothing. You pay them for everything. That's the modern system. And the moment you sign that contract, they take your future productivity as collateral. That's why banks love loans. They don't need to risk their capital. They risk yours. Rockefeller understood this over a century ago. That's why he never became dependent on bank money. He learned to use their game against them. Because once you realize money is just code, you stop chasing it and start building leverage with it. This is how modern wealth is created, not with savings. With strategy. Why this keeps you broke. Get real. This entire system is built to trap the uninformed. You borrow money, the bank created from thin air. Then you work 10 to 30 years to repay it with real effort, with taxed income, with interest, with stress. And while you're busy paying off your mortgage, they're lending out your payments again and again. You stay poor. They scale up. But it doesn't stop there. All this artificial money being pumped into the economy inflates prices. Houses cost more, education costs more, food, fuel, assets, everything goes up, but your income still moves slow. They inflate what you need while devaluing what you earn. That's the trap. This is why the middle class works harder every year, but owns less. Because the game is rigged in reverse. You are running a race against a printer, and the printer always wins. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. You don't escape the system by avoiding it. You escape by learning to manipulate it. That's what the wealthy do. They don't save more. They use strategic debt. They don't complain about inflation. They own the assets that benefit from it. You don't beat the game by playing small. You beat it by playing smart. And the first step is admitting the money you're chasing isn't even real. But the power you can build with it is *** mindset shift. Don't fight the system. Exploit it. Here's the moment most people get stuck. They learn the system is unfair. So they get angry, bitter, defensive. But Rockefeller didn't waste time being mad. He studied the system, understood its flaws, and used those flaws to build an empire. You don't need to fight the bank. You need to think above the bank. They create money from thin air? Fine. Then you create assets from thin opportunity? They use leverage? You use intelligent debt to multiply your gains. They manipulate interest? You manipulate time by accelerating your income streams and reducing your dependency. It's all about power. But not loud power. Strategic power. The middle class plays defense. The wealthy play offense with precision. So here's your new frame. The system is not your enemy. It's a machine. And the people who learn to operate the machine win. From now on, you don't walk into a bank begging. You walk in knowing you're not here to be managed. You're here to move capital with clarity, with direction. You don't escape this game by backing out. You escape it by mastering the controls. Section 6. Strategies to use the system. Approximately equals 600 words. Now that you know how the game works, here's how to flip the table. These are real Rockefeller-style moves to use the same system that keeps most people broke. To make you rich with leverage. 1. Asset-backed debt. Never borrow for consumption. Borrow to acquire cash-producing assets, real estate, businesses, intellectual property. If a loan doesn't generate income, it's not leverage. It's a leash. Rich people don't avoid debt. They use it to build income machines. 2. Legal arbitrage. Separate your risk, growth, and income. Set up multiple legal entities, LLCs, trusts, corporations. One owns assets, one handles income. One takes risk. This lets you move through the system protected, flexible, and optimized. The banks don't need to know everything. They just need to know enough to approve what serves you. 3. Credit stacking. Build multiple credit lines before you need them. The wealthy don't wait for emergencies. They create dry powder, open business lines, use 0% interest periods. Separate, personal from corporate credit. That way, when opportunity strikes, you don't hesitate. You deploy. 4. Hard asset conversion. Turn fake money into real wealth. Use borrowed funds to buy land, real estate, royalties, equity, and private businesses. Once you've converted credit into something that holds or increases in value, the game shifts in your favor. That's what Rockefeller did. Oil, steel, land, tangible, long-term, scalable. 5. Velocity thinking. Move money faster than interest can erode it. Instead of sitting on borrowed cash, Rotate it. Flip inventory, launch offers, buy and resell, short-term deploy, high return. Collect speed as your shield. Cash flow is your sword. These aren't theories. They're the same principles used quietly by families who control billions while the rest of the world argues about savings accounts. You're not here to play small. You're here to architect your wealth, and it starts with thinking like a Rockefeller while everyone else thinks like a customer. Protect yourself from the trap. Now let's get something clear. Just because you're learning to use the system doesn't mean the system won't still try to use you. You need to stay sharp. Stay protected. Stay in control. Here's how. 1. Avoid consumer debt like poison credit cards for dinners, vacations, and shiny distractions. That's not leverage, it's a cage. If it doesn't build cash flow, don't borrow for it. Period. 2. Segment your banking relationships in store. Borrow and invest with the same bank. That gives them too much control. Use different institutions for operating capital, strategic credit, long-term storage, investment movement. Keep them guessing. Keep you secure. 3. Track your ratios like a CEO. Wealth isn't about how much you earn. It's about how well you manage what flows. Every month, monitor income to expense ratio, debt to asset ratio, cash flow versus interest liability. You're not just a man. You're a financial entity. Act like it. Rockefeller didn't just build wealth. He protected it with systems. You can too, because if you don't build structure, someone else will structure your downfall. Don't be the medium, be the architect. Here's the truth no one told you. You are the engine of the entire financial system, not the bank, not the government, not the institutions. Without your effort, your signature, your belief, nothing they create has power. You've been told your job is to carry the weight, pay the interest, stay in line, follow the rules. But you're not a mule. You're not a servant. You are the architect. The banks create money from nothing and use you as the structure to give it value. It's time you flip that. Don't be the medium through which their profit is made. Be the mind that decides where capital flows, when and why. This is more than strategy. It's spiritual alignment with responsibility, because if you don't master money, it will master you. If you don't control debt, it will quietly control your future. Rockefeller didn't fight the system. He became its architect. He created foundations that outlived him. He structured wealth that didn't collapse under inflation, banks, or politics. And he did it with calm, clarity, and control. That's the invitation now. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to move with precision, use the loopholes, leverage the velocity, protect the base. Scale with vision. You don't need to rebel. You need to rise above that, because at the end of the day, money isn't just digits, it's direction. And when you finally take control of that direction, you don't just get rich. You become untouchable.